Probably so far one of the favorite things about this bike is the engine and how smooth it is. Man, it is butter. And yeah, I got used to the beta, but man, it's like you can't even feel that this thing's running when it's on. So super nice on that. I can definitely feel less arm pump and fatigue from the vibration. So once I test rode this thing and felt how smooth it is, that kind of sold me on it right away. Yeah, really enjoying that, and big improvement. Yeah, already torn apart. Gonna be doing fork seals. I tried to use the seal saver. It seemed to help this fork out a bit, but this one not so much. I thought that it did the trick, but after taking it for a ride for a few hours, it was still just puking oil out. So yeah, these will be getting done soon. Got new seals over here, tools, fluids, whatnot. So yeah, basically got a great deal, I think, on this thing. I live in a pretty rural area, and it is not easy to buy and sell dirt bikes near me in general. Yeah, found this thing super local to me, and it was priced pretty good. I was able to get the price down even more due to the forks leaking. I was hopeful, like I said, that the seal saver was gonna be a quick fix, and it was not. So this thing, it's got 90 hours on it. So, you know, it's due for a bunch of stuff. It is a little beat up. The plastics are pretty kind of wiped out. This one's cracked. You know, graphics worn off. No graphics here. This looks like it's taken some good flops. I don't know what happened to the brake light. That's gone. Probably broke off when they looped this thing out. Overall, it seems to be pretty mechanically solid. But yeah, it's just very, very scratched up. A lot of the graphics are peeling off. But I'm not really too concerned about that. That's okay. It was kind of funny when I got it. The positive battery cable was like, I don't know, the terminal was gone off of it, and somebody just like wrapped the wire under the bolt that attaches for the battery, and it was barely hanging on. So I'm surprised this thing even started when I went to go check it out. I got home and took out the air filter to clean it because it was, you know, fairly dry. The guy I bought it off of says he didn't ride this much, and it kind of seems that way. He was the second owner. He said he only put maybe 10 hours on it over the span of like 4 months. So yeah, and I took the air filter out and discovered the battery connection. Yeah, I made a new battery cable for it. It's all good now. Oiled the air filter like it should be. Probably gonna do the shock oil at some point. The shock doesn't seem like it's leaking, but I'm gonna try to be pretty good on maintenance on this thing. I definitely want the suspension to work, you know, how it should be, or work optimally. So I'm gonna change the fluid in that shock at some point. Not right now, but in the near future, so it can be pretty closely matched with the forks. Let's see, the first ride I took it out on, I cracked the skid plate on it, so that's gonna need to get replaced at some point. Let's see, what else does this thing have that's pretty cool? It's got bulletproof designs, radiator guards. It also has the side guards, which I guess is like a whole nother thing. So that's good. It actually has like legit radiator protection, and the radiators are straight. They're not bent already, so that's nice. Got the carbon pipe guard on there. Let's see, it's got some different foot pegs. It's probably gonna need a front sprocket pretty soon. Maybe a chain. The rear sprocket looks pretty good. I know ideally you're supposed to change both of them, but I'll probably run this one a little bit more. I did go through the jetting on this thing. I pulled the carburetor. Well, I didn't pull the carburetor, but flipped it sideways, popped the bowl off, and checked the jetting in it. I am right at 7,000 feet. I think it's got a 40 pilot and I think a 158 or 160. No, it's got a 160 main, and it has the NIEH needle and a second clip. It runs pretty good. Pretty happy with the performance and the jetting of it. I know these things are notoriously have bad jetting from the factory, but it seems to be pretty spot on. It runs great. It has basically zero splooge out of the silencer. I was pretty surprised by that. I mean, I rode it for about 4 hours, and this is it. It was totally clean when I started, and that's all I got out of it. So yeah, this thing seems to run really clean, and I am running 50-to-1 premix. I use the Lucas Oil semi-synthetic. I get a pretty good discount on it through my work, so pretty much use that in all my two-strokes with no issues. Yeah, I'm getting used to this thing a little bit. It's got different riding geometry. The brakes are kind of interesting on this. They're really nice. They're Brembos. The rear brake seems super grabby, and I'm basically comparing this to to my old Beta. It was a 14300 RR. The rear brake seems really grabby, and the front brake, it seems that you can really lean into it, and it doesn't lock up too easily, which is kind of nice. The Beta had missing brakes, and that front brake would lock up if you breathed on it. So I am kind of liking this front brake a bit more. Feels like you're able to kind of modulate it more, lean into it more, get some more bite. And it doesn't just like instantly lock up like the Beta did. So yeah, so kind of getting used to that. Like I said, the rear brake seems very grabby. So I'm having to relearn how to do that whole thing. The seat on this thing, I love the seat. You know, I don't sit down too much when I'm riding. So, you know, with the Beta, I mean, they're notoriously, you know, just hard. I mean, they always compare it to like a 2x4. Which is, you know, fine, whatever. You're not supposed to be sitting, blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, come on. You couldn't make it a little bit softer. You know, this thing is pretty firm, but, man, it just has a nice amount of squish to it. So it actually makes it somewhat enjoyable to sit on, which is pretty nice. You know, after a long ride, sometimes you want to sit down a little bit, and the Beta was just awful for that. So, really like the seat, like the material of it. It's pretty grippy, much grippier than the Beta factory seat cover. I don't really see any reason to put a different seat cover on this thing, or change the seat foam at all. It feels great. I'm liking that. It has a cooling fan from the factory. I am going to be wiring in a resistor to that. I noticed it was coming on a lot when I was on my first trail ride with it, and I was not riding it that hard, and it wasn't hot out, but the fan just kind of seemed to always be running. So looking a little bit through the Sherco pages on Facebook, I found out that this fan with the factory thermo switch is set to come on at 150 degrees, which I think is way too low. To me, engines are supposed to get up to about 180 degrees to run optimally. I mean, obviously they're all a little different, but having the fan set to 150 degrees just seems way overkill. So I read that you can wire in I think it was a 300 ohm resistor, which will make it come on at 180, and I think that would be totally fine and just save wear and tear on the fan. That thing does not need to be running all the time like it is. So yeah, we'll get to that at some point. The bars on this thing are pretty low. Kind of getting used to that. I am 5'10" and about 155 pounds. So to me, this does not feel uncomfortable. Through researching on getting this bike, I've heard that how the riding position can be kind of cramped for some taller people, because I think it's the pegs are up high and the bars are kind of low, but it feels good to me, honestly. I didn't have any issues or notice any kind of weird discomfort or cramping. So yeah, really not gonna mess with that at all for now. I really like the controls on this thing. They're nice and simple. Got the start button here. Got the power valve map switch here, and headlight off, on, and then the engine stop button. Nice and simple. Kind of one thing I didn't like about the beta is the multi-switch they have here. It has the engine stop button like up here, and it's just kind of weird. I got used to it, but really liking this setup a lot more so far. It's just simple, clean. I'm hoping where the 250 is going to come in real handy is like when we do in our hair scramble races and enduros, that the 250s, I think it's going to be a little less tiring to ride for me. I'm a pretty novice rider and racer, but the 300, as good as it was like in single track up in the mountains, doing like technical rock crawling type of stuff, it really kind of kicked my butt during racing. It just had a ton of power, and I was kind of like hanging on for dear life when I was like in wide open throttle situations, or when I would get tired, having all that power on tap was sometimes a little tricky, especially getting arm pump. You could whiskey throttle it more easily. I felt like I never really did, but felt prone to it for sure. I love that you can change the spark plug without having to remove anything. That's awesome. That was how the beta was, and I really like that. On this, that would annoy me a lot if you had to like take the tank off just to change the spark plug. Speaking of the tank, this does kind of have an interesting tank design. The petcock is way in here, right there, and it's kind of a pain to get to if you dump the bike over. You really gotta like reach your hand in there and kind of fiddle around. But I will say I do like the design of it, that it's at the bottom-most part of the tank. I like the center and the bottom part of the tank is the lowest part. Seems really good for weight distribution. Same thing with the battery. The battery is down in this box right here, and it is a lithium lightweight battery. So I like the way they designed this bike. I like the electronic power valve. I have only ridden it on like the power map setting. I've ridden it briefly on the lower power setting, just to see like what kind of difference there is, and you can definitely feel a difference. I am excited to try the low power setting, like in a really technical hard enduro type terrain, to see if it helps with traction and controllability, getting less wheel spin. So see what happens with that. But yeah, it actually does make a pretty noticeable difference. And also, while I got the forks out, I'm going to be greasing the steering stem bearings, because those are pretty notorious on all dirt bikes for not being greased properly. But yeah, this was a quick overview so far of the 22 Sherco SE250. I was not really looking for a new bike or looking to get rid of the Beta, but just kind of happened, and I couldn't pass this deal up. For the price I got it for, it was a couple $1,000 less than what you would normally see these things go for. So just needs a little love, which I'm up for the task. You know, this thing deserves to be treated well and ridden hard, so that's what I'm gonna do.